This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. We begin with a major development tonight involving an international faith-based foster care and adoption agency. Michigan-based Bethany Christian Services announced this week it will place children in LGBT homes. Mark Martin joins us now from the CBN newsroom with more. Mark.
Heather, Bethany changed course after a recent legal settlement. The international agency is responsible for around 8% of Michigan's more than 13,000 foster care and adoption cases centered around kids from troubled homes. The nonprofit organization issued a statement saying, "We are disappointed with how this settlement agreement has been implemented by the state government. Nonetheless, Bethany will continue operations in Michigan in compliance with our legal contract requirements." Michigan's Democratic Attorney General Dana Nessel announced the settlement last month after homosexual couples sued in 2017. The settlement bans faith-based agencies like Bethany from refusing to place kids in LGBT homes for religious reasons if the agencies have accepted the children for referral from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The Associated Press reports that of the faith-based agencies in Michigan who are known not to serve LGBT couples or individuals, Bethany does more work for the state than any other. Bethany handled more than 1,150 cases as of February. AP reports Catholic Charities had a caseload of more than 400, and St. Vincent Catholic Charities had 80 cases. Michigan State Human Services Department spokesperson Bob Wheaton said the department was glad it will be able to continue its long-standing partnership with Bethany in providing services to children and families. Nessel tweeted last weekend, "Having more adoption agencies which don't discriminate equals more children adopted into loving, nurturing, forever homes. Thank you to Bethany Christian Services." The Associated Press reports that Nessel is a lesbian and as a private attorney battled to overturn Michigan's ban on same-sex marriage. And Heather, Christianity Today reports that Bethany, which has been in existence for 75 years, made it clear its mission and Christian beliefs have not changed. The change will not have an impact on infant adoptions, international adoptions, or foster placements in the 34 other states where Bethany serves.
Okay, and Mark, are there any agencies fighting the Michigan settlement in court?
Yes, Catholic Charities West Michigan filed a lawsuit against Michigan's new rule. Also, St. Vincent Catholic Charities filed a lawsuit in federal court claiming the settlement violates the U.S. Constitution and Federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Heather, back to you.
All right, thanks, Mark. And D.C. Attorney Nick Reeves with the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty joins us now with more on what's happening in Michigan and across the country when it comes to religious liberty for faith-based foster care and adoption agencies. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Sure, Heather. Happy to be here.
Tell us, Becket has several faith-based child placement agencies that it is representing right now. And tell us what is happening with St. Vincent Catholic Charities in Michigan. What is it challenging in court?
Yes, we represent two different faith-based agencies, one in Philadelphia and St. Vincent, like you mentioned. We also represent a number of families that work with these agencies and that would lose the ability to partner with an agency they can rely on and have relied on for years. For example, the Buck family has worked with St. Vincent to adopt 5 special needs kids. And if St. Vincent closes, they would lose the ability to continue providing that important ministry.
All right, and of course, critics are saying that you're discriminating when you won't work with LGBT couples. What's the argument that you're making in court?
The argument is that the state contracts with a diverse array of agencies, and the state has recognized that that diversity is important to helping kids in need. For example, Catholic agencies like St. Vincent have about 45% of the kids adopted each year have special needs, and that's a particular niche and a need that these agencies fill that no one else in the state is able to accomplish. Similarly, agencies like the Catholic Charities that we represent better place older children and sibling groups in a way that other agencies can't. So when you lose this diverse array of agencies serving Michigan's diverse population, it hurts kids in need. And putting kids first is really the most important thing here.
Well, and that's interesting because the Michigan Attorney General and others, of course, have made the argument consistently that more children will be served if faith-based agencies are forced to work with LGBT couples. But it sounds like you're saying the opposite, that more children will be served if you're allowed to stay in the arena and carry out your beliefs.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. Agencies like St. Vincent, consistent with Catholic teaching, aren't able to endorse same-sex relationships, and that's a really minor part of the foster care system, but an important part for agencies like St. Vincent. So if the state doesn't allow them to continue operating as they have for the past several decades, they will have to shut down, and that's not good for anybody.
Well, several states, including Michigan, have passed laws protecting the religious beliefs of child placement agencies, but the Michigan Attorney General now says that law doesn't apply if agencies are under contract with the state. So I'm wondering, are these laws that we're seeing not much of a protection?
I think the Attorney General has just chosen not to apply the law. I think that's the real problem here. The law that was passed in 2015 was specifically designed to protect agencies like St. Vincent, and several foster families and other agencies that contract directly with the state testified in support of the law. And much of the preamble of the law talks about the value of these private faith-based agencies working with the state to help kids in need. So I think the law does what it says, and the state has chosen to ignore that.
Well, we know there's several of these cases around the country right now, and a lot of disagreement. Do you see this ultimately going to the Supreme Court?
I do. We just had a ruling in the Third Circuit, which is covering Pennsylvania and our case there, and we're looking at the next steps in that case. There's a case developing in New York as well, and there's some recent development in South Carolina that's been in the news. So I think, this issue is percolating nationally, and I think it's no surprise because we see a large need for more foster parents with the opioid crisis and other things. We need more parents helping these kids who have been displaced from their homes. And when the states look to do that, one of the first lines of defense is these faith-based agencies, because they're so good at recruiting families that might not otherwise choose to foster or adopt.
A lot of high stakes for kids. Nick Reeves with the Beckett Fund, thanks for your time.
Sure, thank you, Heather.
Well, in Kansas, a setback for the pro-life movement. The Supreme Court ruled today to block a 2015 ban on dismemberment abortions. The decision prevents the state from enforcing a previously passed law that greatly limited second trimester abortions. The law was the first in the nation to ban the procedure known as dilation and evacuation abortions. Two abortion providers later challenged the ruling. The Kansas Supreme Court ruled that the state's constitution protects abortion rights. Pro-life advocates are now calling for amending the Kansas Constitution, asking lawmakers to add an abortion ban to the state constitution ahead of their next session next week. President Trump is touting the U.S. economy as the #1 economy in the world. His comments come after the Friday morning announcement that the U.S. economy grew at a solid 3.2% annual rate in the first 3 months of this year.
We're doing great. GDP is an incredible number. But remember this, not only that, we have a great growth, which is growth. We have great growth and also very, very low inflation. Our economy is doing great. #1 in the world. We're #1 economy right now in the world.
The president made the comments before boarding Air Force One for Indiana. He is in Indianapolis today to address the National Rifle Association, the nation's largest gun rights organization. We'll have more stories like this from our Washington bureau this evening on Faith Nation. You can watch it here on the CBN News Channel. In New York State, Rockland County has issued a second declaration of emergency as the measles outbreak there continues.
Our federal government cannot sit idly by. They must ensure that anyone entering this country for any reason produce valid documentation of appropriate immunization records. This needs to be done. This is not a Rockland County issue. It's a nationwide, in some respects, worldwide issue. Not tomorrow, not in a week, not in a year. It must be done immediately. I would recommend, even through executive order from the president, We need to have immediate action. To do any less is both a disservice to and a betrayal of the people of this country.
On Wednesday, New York City health officials reported 61 new cases since late last week. Most of those cases have been in unvaccinated people in Orthodox Jewish communities. Officials say there is no religious exemption for the vaccine within the community. The CDC continues to recommend the vaccine for every American over 1 year old. This is the worst year for measles in the U.S. since 1994. Well, officials in Sri Lanka say Mohammed Zarin, the suspected leader of the group they say carried out those terrorist attacks, was killed. He apparently died in the blast at one of the hotels that was bombed. Police have arrested Zarin's second in command. Sri Lanka's prime minister says militants may be planning more attacks.
Well, they've rounded up a lot of suspects, but there are still some of the active people on the run. They may be having explosives with them, or they may have hidden the explosives. So we have to find the suspects as well as the explosives. So that's still on.
Australia's prime minister says the attackers were supported by ISIS. Orthodox Christians flooded the streets of Jerusalem today to observe Good Friday. During the procession in Jerusalem's Old City, the pilgrims walked and retraced Jesus' last steps before his crucifixion as tradition dictates. Orthodox Christians who follow the old Julian calendar are marking Easter this weekend. Roman Catholic and Protestant congregations that observe the new Gregorian calendar held their Easter celebrations last week. Coming up, how one organization in California is helping victims of human trafficking get back on their feet. And here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to his children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Many victims of sex trafficking who escape find out they have a major barrier when it comes to going to school, getting a job, or finding a place to live. And that barrier is their criminal record. It often comes from law enforcement that mistakenly sees them as criminals rather than victims. Many states are working to provide criminal record relief for victims, and now a new legal tool promises to truly give victims a second chance. It's called vacature, and here to explain it is Jamie Quint, a San Diego attorney who founded a nonprofit, Free to Thrive, for trafficking survivors. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Talk a little bit about, many people have heard of the practice of expunging or sealing criminal records, but vacature goes a step further. How does it work?
It does go a step further. So vacatur helps victims of human trafficking completely clear their criminal records, and it's a special law just for victims of trafficking. And the way it works is that, at least in California, the law works in that if you expunge your record, it actually still shows up when an employer or anybody else runs a background check. You still have to answer yes, that you've been arrested or charged with a crime in the past. It's very hard to go into any licensed profession. The vacatur law is a finding of factual innocence. It's as if it never happened. And they actually have to destroy the records completely. So it's a complete clean slate for victims and survivors of human trafficking.
I know that you just used it to help a San Diego woman who was trafficked for years, starting at age 16. How did vacatur help her?
Well, it's an incredible fresh start for her. Not only did it help her, it will help her get a job, help her get housing, help her go back to school and get student loans, but it goes to her identity of who she is. This fresh start is saying to her she's not a criminal and she never should have been treated like a criminal to begin with.
Talk a little bit more about some of the barriers that criminal records are creating for trafficking survivors. What are you finding from their stories that they're up against when they do have these records?
So this goes across our criminal justice system. Once somebody has been arrested for a crime, even if the charge is dismissed, but if you're arrested and convicted or you plead guilty, that stays with you the rest of your life. It's really hard to get a job. Most housing, whether it's public housing or private landlords, all do background checks, and it's hard to get anybody to rent to you. It's hard to get student loans. I've had clients turn down from jobs like a dog walking job. They can't get jobs in the medical profession, retail jobs that you wouldn't even think that you would run a background check for. They can't get those jobs. I actually have one client in particular who right now is working minimum wage at a grocery store, and she's been hired for a job helping children who've been trafficked start their lives and move forward. And she really wants to, use her experience to help others. She has a job offer, and all she's waiting for is to clear her record, because you can't work with children if you have a criminal record. So once we clear her record, she's going to be able to start this job, no longer be working minimum wage, and more importantly, help others who've been through this so that they can move forward with their lives.
Jamie, it does seem that the process of vacatur is complicated and expensive. How realistic is it that many survivors of trafficking will be able to access it?
Well, it is complicated and it's expensive only in time, attorney time. Luckily, we have many pro bono lawyers who are volunteering their time to help our clients. And, one of the things that I'm doing is training lawyers not just here in San Diego, but around the state of California and around the country to do this work so that they can join us. The reality is the hardest part is first for our clients to identify as a victim of trafficking, and then to have lawyers equipped with the skills to clear their records. And if we can do those two things, identify victims, help them self-identify that they've been trafficked, and connect them to lawyers, they can all clear their records.
All right, good news there. Jamie Quint with Free to Thrive. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time: keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man. Come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
And welcome back. Here to bring us the top trending stories from FaithWire, CBN's Jessica Chaco and FaithWire's Dan Andros.
Well, a Canadian father has been convicted of, quote, family violence after refusing to call his daughter a boy. In addition, he's also received a protective order preventing him from speaking to the media about the case. Here to tell us more about it, managing editor of FaithWire.com, Dan Andros. Dan?
Yeah, we've been following this story, and the family, while their names are anonymous, the daughter, who is 14, is only referred to as Maxine in court documents. But basically what happened here was back in February, the Supreme Court of British Columbia ruled that she could receive her desired male hormone treatments that she was seeking. The father had actually requested that she not get this, but they went to court over it. And the family it's a broken family. There's a divorce situation happening there, so it gets complicated. But the bottom line is this dad, and it's not like the girl is 18 or 19 and approaching that age of adulthood and independent decisions. This is a 14-year-old girl, and the court vehemently has ruled against this father multiple times. It's a sign of, there are a lot of candidates out there now who are pushing for a single-payer system, healthcare system, and that's what they have in Canada. And these are some of the decisions that you can, potentially expect to see in the future, where the hospital actually declined to listen to the father. So it's a pretty scary situation, and the father had actually been reprimanded for even showing her conservative commentary and prohibited him from doing so in the future.
Wow, we'll keep you all updated on that story. Well, we all could use some positive news, and this Good Samaritan story is just that. James Cunningham was down and out, battling addiction, suicidal thoughts, and homelessness, until a stranger stepped in and changed his life. Dan, what do you know?
Yeah, this is a fantastic story, and it really should hope it convicted me a little bit, because I think we've all walked by somebody who's begging for change and shaking the cup, and that's exactly what James said. He had basically been reduced to after a series of events in his life left him homeless, on drugs, and alcohol, and he was basically hopeless, and had actually told his friends on the street that, I don't think I'm going to make it to the next month. This was in August. He said, I don't think I'm going to make it to September. He was contemplating suicide. But it was during that time, it was a very difficult month for him. But towards the end of the month, he ran into someone named Manny, who, instead of just throwing money in his cup, said, you know what, let's go eat a bite of pizza. And so he bought him pizza, and he talked to him. And that's when James said, it hit me. Like, he was treating me like a human being. And I'd almost forgotten what that felt like. And so just through a couple interactions, Manny kind of helping him, using his own computer to sort of get him his birth certificate and help him get a job again. Just those couple simple little acts got him back on his feet. Now he's got 2 jobs. He's going to church. His faith is strong again, and he's praising God the whole way. Beautiful story.
Thanks, Stan. Well, if you want to find stories like these, just visit FaithWire on Facebook or on the web at faithwire.com. Thanks.
Up next, we hear from pro-life activist Abby Johnson and how she hopes the movie Unplanned, based on her life, makes an impact.
As the world watches from the outside,
it's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
The box office success for the pro-life movie Unplanned continues to grow. Last weekend, sales hit $17.2 million for the film about the transformation of former Planned Parenthood director Abby Johnson. With only a $6 million budget, the PureFlix film started making a profit on its opening weekend after debuting with $6.1 million. The movie overcame the obstacles of an R rating by the Motion Picture Association of America and having its ads banned on major television channels. Johnson, who quit her job at Planned Parenthood after seeing an abortion via ultrasound, now works to help others leave the abortion industry. She spoke with CBN News about the success of the film.
We've seen a lot of pro-life movies sort of come and go, and people have said, what's the difference here with Unplanned? And I really think it's about timing. We look at what's happening just in these crazy laws that are being passed all across the country, late-term abortions, infanticide laws. And, I think that people are just ready. I think they were ready to see the truth. I think people were seeking truth on the issue of abortion, and this film hopefully will be a really powerful tool that people can use moving forward to show the truth of abortion and also to show the powerful redemptive nature of Christ.
Beautiful. Well, that is it for this edition of Newswatch. We hope that you'll join us next time. Have a great weekend.